All-Star Weekend is officially behind us. The resumption of the season comes Tuesday. It's time to look ahead to what's left for the Orlando Magic. A lot. I know it's weird. It's different. We'll get to that on today's episode of Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are deep into Locked On Magic. Today is February 20th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we look ahead to what the Magic have to accomplish the rest of the season. Now that we're done with the All-Star break, the sprint to the finish begins. We'll talk about the playoff chase, what the Magic need to do, and the road ahead. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when you upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Right before the All-Star break, last Friday's episode, I think, sometime last week, I talked about how the Orlando Magic have accomplished every single one of their goals so far that they set out at the beginning of the season. This season, like for perspective, this season has gone better than I think a lot of us expected, or at least reasonably expected. I know there's some fourth seeders out there and it hasn't gone to plan, but the essence of that episode was the Magic have accomplished a lot and proved they can do a whole lot more. So we had that chance before the All-Star break to look back. Today's episode is about looking forward. It's about looking at the next 27 games and what the Magic need to do to make the most of these 27 games. What the Magic need to see in these 27 games. And essentially this episode is about what those new expectations are. And let's just start here. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, I said very clearly, missing the play-in tournament was not an option. So let's say this very clearly then. Missing the playoffs is not an option for this team. It is possible. Do not sleep on that. It is no guarantee the Orlando Magic will play in a 7-game series this year. As things currently stand at the All-Star break, the Orlando Magic are a half game behind the Indiana Pacers for 6th, tied with the Miami Heat for 7th, and the division lead, by the way, which they cannot win in a direct tiebreaker with the Heat. They've got to beat them. They're 2.5 games back of the Philadelphia 76ers for 5th, 3 games back of the New York Knicks for 4th. They hold a healthy 4-game lead over the Chicago Bulls for 8th. But the fact of the matter is that when you go into the play-in tournament, anything can happen. Could the Magic go down to Miami, go down to Kaseya Center and beat the Miami Heat? Absolutely. Could the Magic lose that game? Absolutely. Could the Magic lose a one-off game against the Chicago Bulls, a team that the Magic needed overtime and 2 buzzer beaters to defeat? Absolutely. Could the Magic lose to the Atlanta Hawks in a one-off game, a team that the Magic needed overtime and lost on 2 last-second shots? Absolutely. It is no guarantee that the Magic will reach the playoffs. But that is undoubtedly the goal. That is undoubtedly what matters to this team. being in a 7-game series is the most important growth experience that this young Magic team can have. Just plain and simple, nothing else matters. The Magic must be in a 7-game series. It's going to teach them what they need to work on, what they need to improve on. Going through the push and pull of a series, that stuff matters. And look, I am all for the play-in tournament. I think it's been a great thing for the NBA. I think for a young team like the Magic, the potential to experience success and failure in high-stakes games, to experience a Game 7, a Game 7-like atmosphere and Game 7-like pressure, they're probably not going to get that in a 7-game series this year. So I am all for the play-in tournament. I am not, if the Magic end up missing the playoffs because of the play-in tournament, I'm not going to be sour grapes about it. Those are the rules. The Magic have to prove themselves and earn their way in. But a 7-game series is different. Obviously, it's different. Learning how to make adjustments, learning how defenses focus in on you so intently in a way they can't, even in a play-in scenario. In a play-in scenario, you got a day to prepare. It's like the regular season. And the regular season is a different challenge than the playoffs. The Magic need to have their young guys, especially Paolo and Franz, go through a playoff series and see how teams adjust and attack them. See how they learn to attack defenses and how they attack the adjustments made on them. We are still in a development project. As much as I think we want to win, and I'm not going to be upset if the Magic do win a playoff series, the Magic are still learning their roster, figuring out what they need, what needs to grow. And their young players are still learning what it takes to win in this league. And nothing teaches you that more than a 7-game series. And so for this team to grow and develop and become the team that we know they can be, it starts with getting in. That is all that matters. So if the Magic can push their way into 6th, fantastic. Do that, please. Half game behind Indiana is not a problem, or it shouldn't be. Indiana's a very good team. I'm not taking anything away from Indiana. Miami's also a very good team. Not taking anything away from Miami. The Magic have to be in I hate to repeat myself, but Magic have to be in the series. And that should be the only goal. That is the only measure of success for these final 27 games. Like I said on Friday, yes, the season's a success regardless. Being in the 7-8 game, I did not, I'll say this. I didn't think they'd do that. I thought that was on the high end of what they could do. And so we are experiencing a season on the high end of what this team is capable of in a lot of ways. At least by preseason expectations. But expectations change. And the Magic are a team that is playoff good. Just let that sink in. Let that marinate. The Magic are playoff good. Now they just need the actual series to prove it. And the rest of this season is going to be about getting there and doing everything they can to do so. The Magic have every advantage to do it, though. We're going to talk about why the Orlando Magic can make the playoffs. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks. The NBA All-Star Game is behind us. The race and the sprint to the playoffs is in front of us, and you can be on that sprint too. Prize Picks is the #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. No crazy salary caps, no being in these gigantic player pools. It's really that simple. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. At Prize Picks, it's right now demon time, which means you can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks, turning $10 into $1,000. Demon and Goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play at PrizePicks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy that I use. I'm going to use it for as long as Florida lets me at this point. It's the daily fantasy that I play. I feel like I'm pretty successful on it. I usually get my money back out of bad Super Bowl, but you usually get your money back at the very least because it's just so simple to play. Again, all you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players and their projections, and you can win big. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day. Every day, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On. Plus, our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So the goal is set. Like it's clearly out there. It's clear what this team has to do and what they should be striving to achieve. It's obviously they're in the 7-8 game. I'm pretty confident, and we'll get to why here in a minute, that the Magic are not falling out of the 7-8 game. Whether they're going down to Miami, going to Indianapolis, or one of those two teams is coming to Orlando, I am very, very confident that the Magic are going to be in that 7-8 game, which will give them two bites at the apple to get into the playoffs. I could say that with a lot of certainty, I think. But here's the thing. Everything is set up for the Magic to do a whole lot more. Go back to August. You can go back into our archives, just keep scrolling. You can go back to our archives to August when the schedule came out. I can guarantee, because I've been saying it for months, I can guarantee that I said all the Magic have to do is get to the All-Star break, and then they'll be able to pick up the pace to end the season. I truly believe the Magic can gain at least 1 seed line with the way their schedule is set up. And, we're going to dive into the schedule here toward the end of the episode, but that is a big deal. There are games the Magic can take advantage of. And so the big key for the Magic is the schedule set up for them. The big key for the Magic to accomplish their goals is health. Obviously, the one thing no one can control, but health is going to determine whether the Magic make it or not. Because when this team is healthy, they are one of the, I don't want to say best teams in the East, but when this team is healthy, they are a dangerous team. They are a tough defense to crack, and their offense is at least serviceable. I won't say it's good, but it's serviceable. They're a team that can beat anybody when they are rolling and when they're healthy. And we've seen that over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the All-Star break puts a little wrench in things, but the Magic have won 6 of their last 8 games. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Since getting guys back from injury, and that was January 21st, they are 7-4. Let me double check that. Actually, you make that 8-5. 8-5. They spent a good chunk of December where they were 6-8, and January where I believe they were 6-10. They spent a good chunk of the season not treading water. They were losing ground. And we were really concerned. There was a almost 20-game stretch where they were on like a 30-win pace. So the house of cards, it can crumble a little bit. But when this team is healthy, when they have Jalen Suggs, obviously, when they have Franz Wagner, obviously, when they have Wendell Carter, when they have Jonathan Isaac, when they have Markelle Fultz, when they have Gary Harris, they are pretty solid. They're pretty good. And so being healthy, and this team is healthy right now, and the All-Star break's only going to help. Whatever lingering issues there are for Markelle Fultz, whatever lingering issues there might be for Gary Harris, it's going to help. Being healthy is so big for this team because they can win. Like, simple as that. And I look, every team in the league is going to say that. Every team's going to say when we're healthy, we are good. We are a good team. No. When this Magic team is healthy, they are really good. Like, not just good, really good. Like, top 2 in the East good? Probably not that good, but not as good as they were in November, but they're on their best run right now since that win streak ended. And it's unfortunate that the All-Star break kind of came when it did for that reason. But this team is good enough. Like I said, like the players that they have, regardless of the schedule, it's good enough. Now, the other part of that equation is the Magic have to take care of their business. They have to beat the teams that they should beat. And they have largely done that. Yes, there is a loss to the Memphis Grizzlies, but Orlando has a pretty solid record against teams with below 500 records. And so considering they're about to get a lot of those games over the last 27 games of the season, I think it's like 17 of 27 games are against teams with records below 500. That's a pretty big deal. Orlando this year is 16-5 against teams with records below 500. Now, the only teams that are better than them at that are, frankly, Miami, Chicago 17-5, Miami's 18-8, and then your top 5, Philadelphia, New York, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Boston. The Magic do well against these teams, against the teams that they're going to be playing. And so if they stay healthy, if they stay committed defensively, if they do the things that they've shown that they can do, if they play the way that they've played over the first 3 quarters of the season or 2/3 of the season, they're going to take care of their business. Now, the big thing for them is they've got to pick up ground. They got to pick up some steam. And we're going to get into the schedule here in a minute, but they've got to pick up some steam. They got to string together wins, which is something they have not done consistently. They're doing it right now. Again, 6 of their last 8. They're winning games again. They're doing it right now. But they can't be treading water. This is the time when the good teams get better. They lock in. They play a lot better. And it's something, again, this team has never had to do. Like, I think this is the inexperienced part that I worry about is they've never been to a playoff chase like this before. And maybe they're too young and too naive to know what they're doing, and they're just kind of out there doing it. And, maybe Jamal Mosley has them thinking the right things to be accomplished in this. But the Magic have everything open in front of them. Like, we're going to get into the schedule here, but the Magic have the easiest remaining schedule based on opponent win percentage. Like, that is the bottom line. The Magic, and the Miami's third easiest. So again, they got to pick up ground. Miami's gonna be on an advantage too. The Magic got to pick up some steam and pick up some ground. And what these last 27 games are going to test and what we're going to see is how mature and poised this team is. And that's something that's never been tested. And we don't know what that's going to look like. But we'll march ahead. We'll take a look at the road ahead, these final 27 games, some highlights on the schedule. The rest of the way, we'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at BetterHelp. Look, sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let it out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life, someone who's in your corner, but is unbiased. So today, I want to tell you that it's okay to say how you really feel about something. It's okay to get things off your chest. It's okay to work on yourself. My All-Star week, it's my All-Star weekend too. I'm here still doing a podcast. I'm still, trying to put together content for the website. I need a break too. And something that I talk with my therapist a lot about is how to give myself a break. All of us in journalism can be, really kind of hard workers. We want to serve you, the audience. And so it's always important to me, and something that my therapist has always talked to me about, is it's okay to give yourself a break. So, today was my All-Star Break Universal Day. I had a nice day at the parks. Caught some beads, got a fresh, Jaws rubber ducky, which I really like. It's okay to take a moment for you, however you take it. And therapy can frankly help you learn how to take care of you, whether it's just venting and having someone listen, or whether it's giving you tips and things to think about to manage your emotions, to deal with a crisis, to just live life. Therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA today. Like I said, the road ahead for the Orlando Magic is an advantageous one. It's one we've been waiting for the entire season. I know I've said this to people. I'm sure I've said this on the podcast. All the Magic had to do was get to the All-Star break, and everything's going to open up for them. I do truly believe that the Magic can pick up a seed line with the schedule they have in front of them. And look, it's not just the opponents. Like I said, the Magic have, at least by opponent win percentage, the easiest remaining schedule in the league. In fact, no other team is below 460. The combined winning percentage of every team remaining on the Magic schedule is 43.5%. This is a mixture of having fewer games remaining against the top teams in the league and having a lot of games remaining against the bottom teams in the league. The Magic have 2 games left against the Detroit Pistons. One is coming up on Saturday. They have 1 game left against the Washington Wizards. They have 3 remaining with the Charlotte Hornets, who are playing better now, by the way, since the trade deadline. They have 1 remaining against the Portland Trail Blazers. They have 2 left against the Toronto Raptors. And they have 1 remaining against the Memphis Grizzlies. On the other side of that coin, they have 1 against the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is coming Thursday. First game out of the All-Star break is always kind of screwy. So, who knows if that's going to actually be that important of game. They've got 1 remaining against the LA Clippers. That's coming at the Kia Center in March. We'll get to that in a minute. They have 2 remaining against the Milwaukee Bucks. Both of those are at the end of the season. Who knows if Milwaukee will need those games, if they'll be resting guys or not. One of them is the season finale at the Kia Center. Potential playoff preview. Not impossible. They've got 1 left against the New York Knicks. The Magic are 3-0 against the Knicks this year. Granted, they haven't played the Knicks at full force at any point this season. They've got 2 left against the New Orleans Pelicans and then 1 against the Philadelphia 76ers. That game also toward the end of the season, when who knows if anyone's going to be playing. You can see we qualified a lot of those games already. And so the Magic have this advantage. They have this perk that they can use if they take care of their business. The schedule is also very much set up for the Magic. There are 2 3-game road trips coming up here. The Magic go on a 3-game road trip coming out of the All-Star break at Cleveland, at Detroit, at Atlanta. That's at Cleveland on Thursday, Saturday at Detroit, Sunday at Atlanta. I'm going to sit here and say this. Sunday's game against Atlanta smells like a schedule loss. It is a 8 p.m. tip Saturday in Detroit, followed by a 7 p.m. tip Sunday in Atlanta. That screams schedule loss to me. So, I know we're frustrated with the Magic's games against the Hawks, the way that they've gone down. But be prepared. Then they go 3 games at home: Brooklyn, Utah, Detroit. All teams under 500. Brooklyn is still in the playoff picture. Utah still in the playoff picture, but they both seem to be fading of late. Then they go out on the road to start March on a 3-game road trip at Charlotte, at Washington, at New York. Charlotte's playing better, but Charlotte and Washington are among the tanking teams. New York is New York. Big game March 8th at Madison Square Garden. And then they get set for what is going to be the most important stretch of the schedule. They'll have a couple games. March 10th versus Indiana, humongous game. Mark your calendars, buy your tickets now. Let's make that a big game. March 10th against Indiana is probably the biggest individual game left on the schedule. Orlando's already won the tiebreaker on that. That's their last game against the Pacers. They're 2-0 against Indiana. Winning that game could be what determines whether they get 6 or not. Like I'll sit here and say that. But March 17th through April 1st, the Magic have an 8-game homestand. Toronto, Charlotte, New Orleans, Sacramento, Golden State, the LA Clippers, Memphis, Portland. They have an 8-game homestand. And that is kind of the bulk of their home schedule. They got a lot of home games left, but they have that 8-game homestand, and then they close with 5 of their final 7 games on the road. They have a Sunday, April 7th game against Chicago, and then the season finale a week later against Milwaukee. Again, they got a lot. There's a lot going on there. But that 8-game homestand, if the Magic go 5-3, they go 6-2 on that homestand, they're going to be set up really well. Look, it's not going to be easy. Golden State's going to need those games. The Clippers are going to need those games. Sacramento is definitely going to need those games. New Orleans is going to need those games. There's a lot of difficult games there. But that's going to determine a lot of the season. And the Magic, again, they're set up. Like, if they take care of their business against the teams they should, they are set up to make a big push. Because again, Miami's got 27 games left. They got 464 opponent win percentage. They've still got 2 games against Cleveland. They still got both their games against Denver. They also have both their games against New Orleans. Now they got 3 games against Detroit, 2 against Washington, 2 against Portland, but they're done with Charlotte. They got some difficult games ahead. And Indiana has the 19th most difficult schedule left, 495 win percentage. They've still got Minnesota. They still got both their games against Oklahoma City. They've got both their games against the better Dallas team. What they have working for them, they still have 3 games against Brooklyn, 2 against Detroit, 1 against San Antonio as well. The Pacers, honestly, I think the Magic and Heat are both eyeing the Pacers as a team that they can pass. But Indiana's not going to be easy to pass. We are going to be in this playoff chase the rest of the way. And so the Magic have to take care of their business. They got to steal some games where they can steal some games. Thursday is a great opportunity to steal a game, by the way. Thursday is a really good opportunity to get a game that you may not otherwise be able to get. Just like beating New York before the All-Star break was a humongous win. We could qualify that win however we need to qualify it. It still counts as a win, and it is a big one because New York is a tough team to face. That is stealing a win. The Magic have every opportunity to accomplish their goal, to be the 6th seed, to get into the playoffs. They have every opportunity to set themselves up for a really strong finish to the season. The challenge is going to be, can this young team handle that pressure? Can this young team do the job? And that, frankly, is the part we don't know. We don't know if they can do the job. They've never done it before. And that's going to be the challenge for this team the rest of the way. We are in the sprint to the playoffs. It is not a marathon anymore. It is a sprint, a 27-game sprint. And it's frankly exciting to be a part of because we know what this team is capable of. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and also based on podcast to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. Be sure to check out my Patreon page as well, the Orlando Magic Hub at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. You can find that on YouTube as well as on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today, though. On our next episode of Locked On Magic, we'll hear from the Orlando Magic. They'll be back at practice on Tuesday, so we'll hear from them as they get back from the All-Star break. We'll also talk about Wendell Carter's impact coming up on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.